TGIF, welcome to a new episode of the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how often you really should exercise.
You're listening to the Wellness Simplified podcast. Simple wellness tips to help you improve your life without turning it upside down. With your host, award-winning fitness instructor, nutrition coach, and wellness expert, Susie Phoevens.
Thanks so much for tuning in for another episode of the podcast. I can't believe that this podcast has been going for less than a year. It always feels like such a big part of what I do each week that it's kind of crazy to think that a year ago right now it wasn't even, like, it was sort of like something way in the back of my mind, but not anything that I really was planning to do anytime soon. So thanks for coming along on this ride with me. I hope you have enjoyed it. So we are going to be hitting another one of the questions that I was asked ahead of my Facebook Live last week, and that is, how often should I exercise? So before we really get into this, I have to say this is not a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. It's really going to depend a lot on your situation and your goals and what's going on in your life. But there are a few general guidelines that the Canadian Society for Exercise Physiology recommends that adults, so anyone aged 18 to 64, gets at least 2.5 hours of moderate to vigorous intensity exercise per week in spurts of 10 minutes or more. And I think that last part is really important to note, that you don't need to do all of your exercise at one time. Even 10-minute chunks really, truly do make a difference and add up. And you should do activities that target your muscles and bones at least 2 days a week. So that would be any sort of weight-bearing exercises as well as strength training. And this is a Susie add-on that everyone should take at least one day off from structured exercise each week. For most people, 2 rest days will serve them better than just one. So 2.5 hours of exercise, that is specifically talking about aerobic physical exercise. I've just kind of thrown it in to exercise. So they're saying 2.5 hours of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic physical exercise, as well as 2 days a week activities that target your muscles and bones. For the sake of this, I am just coupling it all together, saying that you are doing something that targets your muscles and bones as well as your aerobic health all at one time, so that you are doing or shooting for 2.5 hours of exercise. So to some people, that's going to sound like a lot of exercise, and to other people, it's going to sound like not much at all. And this is where circumstances really, really matter. Because if you are someone who does hard labor or is on their feet all the time, like a nurse, an LPN, an RN, whatever, someone who works in the ER, if you are a construction worker, someone who is on their feet all of the time, you probably don't need as much as somebody who sits at a desk all day, because you are getting a lot of movement in your general day. So it's a completely different requirement from one person to the other, if you ask me, which you did. So I'm giving you my response. It's two different, you're not comparing apples to apples, it's more like apples to oranges. So we're going to break this down a little bit more. We're going to talk about people who are just starting out on their exercise regime or returning to exercise after injury, illness, having a baby, things of that nature. For those people, 2.5 hours a week is going to sound like a lot. It's important to remember that some is better than none. If you are unable to commit to 2.5 hours of exercise right out of the gate, that does not mean that you shouldn't aim for 1 or 2 workouts of 20 to 30 minutes a week. You are still going to make a profound impact on your health if you are doing less than 2.5 hours. Just that 2.5 hours is what they consider to be the minimum or the ideal. I don't know what terminology you want to use there, but if you're brand new to exercise, 2 30-minute walks per week is going to be so much better for you than none. And it's honestly going to be better than doing 2.5 hours right out of the gate. You're going to burn yourself out. If you're not used to doing that much exercise in the run of a week, that is a lot of exercise. So give yourself time to adapt and build up your stamina. The first month, maybe your ideal number is an hour or less a week. And then maybe month 2, you've worked up to an hour and a half. And month 3, you're getting to 2 hours. Month 4, you make it to 2.5. It doesn't have to be 0 to 2.5 all in one. It's really important to remember that it is okay to be a beginner and that you should allow yourself to be a beginner. And that is true with anything that you are doing, allow yourself the time to be a beginner and learn how to do something. You didn't learn how to walk in one day. When you were a baby, you studied and watched people for ages before you got up on your wobbly little legs, and it took you a while to get there. It takes a while to learn new habits. It takes a while to learn new skills. Give yourself that time. Just give yourself that time. Be a little bit kind to yourself. Give yourself a little extra grace. You'll get there. And now we have the flip side of the coin, the seasoned athlete. And make no mistake, if you exercise on a regular basis, you are an athlete. Believe it. Believe it. Don't let anyone tell you anything differently. You might find that 2.5 hours sounds like not very much. And to you, I want you to say this, that 2.5 hours is a minimum. So it's okay to work out more. That doesn't mean that there isn't a maximum. However, the maximum is going to be different for each person and each circumstance. So I'm not going to sit here and say that if you're exercising more than 5 hours a week, then you're exercising too much, because somebody who's training for a full marathon, for an Ironman, things of that nature, they're going to need to exercise probably more than 5 hours a week. There's going to be a couple days a week where they exercise like 3 hours just in that one day. Really is a case-by-case situation again. But what I really want to talk about is, or talk to, I should say, are the people who have made exercise such an ingrained part of their day that they find it hard to take a day off, find themselves doing multiple workouts a day just because, or because they feel like they need to earn their food. That's not healthy. I want you to think about your body as though it was a car in a car race, like the Indy 500. It doesn't matter how good that car is, it's going to have to come off the track now and then, make a pit stop, fuel up, top up the fluids, get new tires, get the tires rotated, whatever they do. I don't actually watch those type of races, so I don't know. But it still needs to take a pit stop. We are no different. No matter how strong you are, no matter how healthy you are, you need to give your body a day in the shop, so to speak, each week to let it rest and repair. You don't want to wear out your engine. You don't want to be one of those people that just goes and goes and goes, and then your body just like shuts down and you end up with all sorts of health problems. The same thing sort of goes for people who do 2-a-day workouts, and I realize that this is a bit of the pot calling the kettle black situation coming from a fitness instructor who regularly teaches more than one class per day. But over the years, I've been able to structure my schedule so that I'm only teaching one class per day maximum that really requires me to exercise. Some of the other classes I teach, I sort of do, but mostly coach. Some of them I don't really do at all. I'm there to instruct and coach. It's not my time to get a workout in. So even though I am doing more than one a day, a lot of days, I'm not really considering those 2-a-day workouts, because if I'm teaching a circuit class, I'm not doing that circuit with everybody. So I'm not the same intensity I would be if I was actually doing the class myself. So I don't consider those 2-a-days. Anyway, when you're doing multiple workouts per day, you're putting unnecessary stress on your body. Unless you're training for a specific event or sport like an Ironman and you're doing brick style workouts, training more than once a day is not only unnecessary, but it's counterproductive most times, because it's stressing your nervous system, and it often increases cortisol levels and gets you stuck in that fight or flight mode, making it so that your body is always on high alert. If you're not sleeping well, if you feel like your digestion is trash and you're working out all of the time, you need to rest. Remember that high performance athletes truly take their rest days seriously, and they tend to sleep more than the average person does. Now, if you think about the average person who's doing 2-a-day workouts, who has a full-time job, who might have children as well, they're probably cutting into their sleeping time in order to fit one of those extra workouts in. So that's extra counterproductive, because not only are you not allowing your body to rest during the rest phase of the day, but you're taxing it unnecessarily during the day. So it's really, really not beneficial. And to top it all off, most of those people are also eating in a deficit. They're not eating enough food. Professional athletes eat a lot of food. They sleep a lot. They take care of themselves. They work hard, but they also rest hard. So what is ideal? I remember I said that 2.5 hours is the minimum. What's ideal? It's another non-answer. I'm afraid it's really going to depend on the person. I personally take 1 or 2 rest days a week, depending on if I'm teaching a Saturday morning class, but I really only do 3.5 to 4 hours of intense exercise per week. The rest is what I'd consider low intensity steady state exercise, which is exercise that gets me moving, increases my overall calorie burn, but doesn't really tax my nervous system or my heart all that much. So things like walking, hiking, yoga, cycling, kayaking, paddleboarding, all those sorts of things are low intensity steady state, as long as you're not like full out cycling in a cycling race or doing like vicious laps in the pool, just a casual exercise. These are things that you can do more often. So you can even do those types of things on an active rest day, as long as you're not getting your heart rate up super high. So that means if you're somebody who takes a daily walk, maybe you have to walk your dog every day and you like to do a workout program at night, I'm not considering that 2 a day, because you're just kind of out strolling with your pup. That doesn't mean that you are like doing a full on like interval training workout when you're going for a walk. If you are, then that would count as one of your workouts or as a workout. But for the average person, if you're out for a walk, out walking your dog or something, you're going at a decent pace, but you're not going so fast that when you get back, you're like red-faced and panting. So that I would not consider a 2 a day. So I know, so many non-answers. But if you are exercising for hours every day and you're not taking rest days, you're working out too much. Cut back. 5 days a week is plenty. 5 days a week is plenty. And then I want to just finish off with, do you exercise to earn your food? A lot of people exercise with the intended purpose to allow them to go out to eat something, or so that they can burn off something that they've eaten. And that's really the wrong kind of mindset to have. I want to challenge you to, instead of thinking of having to earn or burning off a food, think of food as fuel. If you go out and you eat a whole pizza, which I totally do, eat a whole pizza, the next day don't feel like you have to go burn off that pizza. Think of the food that you've eaten as energy and say, all right, well, I took down a pizza last night, so I am going to kill this workout because I have enough fuel in my system to do that. Don't think of it as a punishment. Think of it as an opportunity to be better. And after you've taken down that pizza, you're going to weigh heavier because you got more food in your guts. Let's be honest. You're going to be heavier. That means if you're doing strength training, you're actually working a little bit harder, even if you're using the same weights that you normally would. If you're doing bicep curls with 10-pound weights, your arms are going to be incrementally heavier, so you're actually working a little bit harder. So it's a good thing. So stop feeling as though you have to earn your food. Food is fuel, and that's how you should look at it. And then, if you don't really know where to start, I do have a new program starting on Monday, December the 9th, my holiday hustle. It's 4 weeks. It's $24.99 Canadian, a little bit less if you are American. And we're going to be doing some 15-minute workouts for the month of December to help keep us on track. But they're nice and short, so we can do them at home. We can do them with minimal or no equipment, and we can do it within our schedule because we can all find 15 minutes. 15 minutes 2 to 4 times a week, and that might be less than the minimum required, but if it's more than what you're going to do otherwise, then you're still killing it. So if you would like to learn more about that, you can click the link in the description or head over to the blog post that is also linked in the description of this episode, and you can find out more about it there. If you're listening to this in my blog post, just scroll on down and you will find the link below. So that is it for this week's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been a little bit informational for you. I hope they're all a little bit informational for you. And yeah, go take a rest day and stop earning your food. Just use food as fuel. That's it for today. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I will talk to you next week.